best to let people with maybe not much experience know what some of the options they have available to them are. My experience with firearms, I was a competitive shooter in the Marine Corps as long as a marksmanship coach. In the Army National Guard, I graduated sniper school in 2008 and was a 3-year member of infantry team in the Iowa Guard. First, if you're new to firearms, I can't stress enough is to get professional instructions, not just somebody that may have had a big gun collection and thinks they're a guru. Go to somebody that actually does it professionally. Most people start out when they think of a defensive firearm, they're going to go for, usually they go at handguns because they're lightweight and portable. But even within just handguns alone, the amount and types available are almost infinite. I'm a proponent of striker-fired semi-autos, and you can get them in full frame, compact, and there's actually sizes in between these two, and subcompact. There's drawbacks, and the same with revolvers. There's drawbacks in every size category. Like, it's large frames. For somebody my size, if I try to carry that concealed, there's no way it's not going to stick out like a sore thumb on my body. This is what I typically carry. It's kind of in between. It still has a double stack magazine, which means there's 2 columns of ammunition within the magazine, but it makes the grip a little bit wider.
What is that?
Say again?
What is that?
Glock 19. I have 3 Glocks up here. I'm not trying to sell anybody on Glock. I just personally have had great experience. This one I have personally shot at least 7,500 rounds through it in 2 years, and it never hiccuped. This one's the same, it's newer. I haven't had a chance to run it through like the other one, but it's approximately got 3,000 rounds through it and never had anything happen. No malfunctions, nothing. And that's the only maintenance that it's taken to keep them running that way, is just keep them lubed and wiped down. No crazy inside the little mechanisms of toothbrushes or anything.
Is the smaller gun easier to draw back?
The lady asked if the smaller gun was easier to cycle the slide. I would say no, because of the slide is so small, you don't have as much purchase to grab a hold of. And that's where, if you have, say, some severely arthritic hands or not a strong grip, an advantage would be a revolver, because it doesn't take very much hand strength at all to operate it, to manipulate it. One thing with a double action, this is a double action revolver, you can fire it by just pulling the trigger and it'll move the hammer back and fire the cartridge, or you can fire the single action by pulling the hammer back and then pulling the trigger, which will give you a lighter trigger pull. One thing that you see people do with revolvers frequently, just horsing around, is they'll spin the cylinder and slam it shut. That is a glass jaw of revolvers. It will knock the cylinder out of time and out of alignment, and when that bullet goes to leave the chamber of the cylinder and it's not lined up with a forcing cone in the barrel, it will shave parts of the jacket off of a jacketed bullet, or little pieces of lead off of a lead bullet, and it won't be as accurate after you've done that. It'll get the fit between the cylinder in the crane will get loose. And when you're going from a larger frame to a smaller frame, whether it's semi-auto or revolver, you're going to lose sight radius. The distance between the front sight and the rear sight, which makes precision aiming more difficult. So it's typically easier to shoot a large frame handgun more accurate than a small one, because you've got the weight that makes it more controllable and the longer sight radius. Same with any handgun. These striker fired weapons, why I like them, is because there is no manual safety. As far as operating it, you pull it from the holster just like you would a revolver, and you can start shooting, and especially under stress for somebody who hasn't trained a lot. I've seen it where they'll flick the safety, they'll forget to flick the safety, and on like a model that would be called a decocker, where the hammer goes down when the safety's engaged, the gun will still click and nothing will happen, and they won't know why, because of the stress that they're under. They won't stop and realize what's happening and why the gun isn't going off. And I've had a similar instance I did myself when I was in the military. On my own time, I shot a pistol very similar to this. This is a single action. This is a 1911 based pistol, with the safety on this particular one, on 1911s, to disengage the safety, you flick it down. On the military Beretta 92s is what we had when I was in. To disengage the safety, you flipped it up. And I was at a competition after shooting that for practice, and then having to use my Beretta 92, I go to flick the safety down, and as a decocker, click, click, nothing happened, so I did remedial action, which I pulled the slide back and ejected a cartridge, thinking it was a bad cartridge. Click again, then oh, hey dummy, you're going the wrong way. So train with what you're going to use. Because once that muscle memory, they call it, takes over, instances like that can happen. Another thing why I like, for personal defense, if it's an option for you, with the semi-autos, have an advantage over revolvers, is almost all revolvers have a gap between the front of the cylinder and the back of the barrel. In low light situations, you'll get a huge flash of light from that area, and that messes with your ability to see the darker areas.
And reacquire target.
Yes, and reacquire target, because now the little rods or cones in your eyes have closed up more than they would with typically with a semi-auto.
Is that with all revolvers?
There's some oddballs out there that were, I think, made by the Russians or Brits in World War II, where they had a mechanism that forced the cylinder forward around an external cone, but nothing made in the last 100 years that I am aware of.
You're saying after it shoots, if you're in the dark, you get a light?
When that cartridge goes off, you'll get a flash in a revolver between the cylinder and the barrel.
But that's only in the dark?
Yeah, you won't notice it in the bright daylight. It won't matter. And with the defensive, with the semi-autos, you can still get up to to a 9mm Ruger 9x19 Parabellum in this little package. And it's, even in a gun this small, that's not a lot of recoil and still quite a bit of stopping power. And I understand that not everybody's got a lot of money, and I'm not telling you to go buy something, and if you got something that works for you, run it. I'm just trying to help show some of the advantages and disadvantages of others. This one here, this has got a lot of power. It's a 45 Colt, but the design is so old and so slow. I'm not saying if this is all you got, don't run it. But every time you go to fire this, you have to pull the hammer back. And it is extremely slow to reload. When you want to get the cartridges out, you have to have this thing half cocked and you're injecting them one at a time. With a double action revolver, granted it's not as fast as a semi-auto where you can just drop a magazine, throw a new magazine in, send a slide forward and you're running again. You still have the option of speed loaders. And there's different kinds. This kind, you would have you dump your empty cartridges, you'd have 6 fresh ones in here, put it here, give it an 1/8 of a turn, and drop 6 more in right there. So if you're using a revolver, these are wonderful. And they have other kinds where if you push it up there and you just hit the back of it and it'll almost eject into the cylinder a new batch of cartridges. Some revolvers can also be equipped with moon and half moon clips. I wish I had some here to show you. I just can't afford to buy everything there is. As bad as I want it, but it ain't happening. But the half moon clips would be a really tiny version of this basically, but the cartridges stay with the clip. You'll eject all 6 cartridges at once and take that full moon clip and drop 6 in and then close the cylinder and continue to shoot again. And half moon clips are just half of one, so they usually have 3 per side. And I never would suggest carrying without a holster. Even if it's in your pocket, please put it in a pocket holster because lint and whatever is in your pocket will end up in the firing mechanism and can render you with a useless firearm. I love holsters that have at least some kind of retention system. Old school paddle holster, got a snap. And that does a nice piece of metal strap here, so when you are trying to get it undone quick, you don't have to fumble around for the snap. You just flick it sideways with your thumb. And then this 1911, I'll give one little piece of advice from custom builders that I've listened to over the years. Do never, on a 1911, let the slide slam home on an empty chamber without a magazine with cartridges in it because it will mess up the locking lugs and it can damage parts inside the fine honing work in the trigger mechanism. And this one I've got, I forget who this is made by, I think it might be Blackhawk. But it has a lever that engages inside the trigger guard. You can't pull it out, but it's still quick to draw because as you're drawing, your trigger finger lays right alongside it. But you still have that retention. a lot of these Kydex ones, I've got several different ones here, have different parts of the molding that engage, like pinch around the trigger guard so it snaps in. This is the newest one we got in our house, but it uses rare earth magnets for retention. And you use it with this little guy, and that's how strong those magnets are. But if you end up, say, in a tussle with your assailant, it's still going to stay in the holster, and you don't have to worry about the holster or the pistol becoming unholstered.
Dave,
Yes.
can you tell me who manufactures that one?
This is JM4 Tactical manufactures this, and you can, yep, and you can wear this one side in the inside the pants, or you can switch it and use it outside the pants. You supposedly don't even need a belt, or you can wear it with sweatpants, or a lot of women wear those stretchy pants, whatever.
Do you know if those rare earth magnets are strong enough, depending on where you're carrying it on your person there, to affect magnetic strips on your bank cards, credit cards, or things within your phone or so?
I guess I never give that a thought.
Probably.
My phone's still working.
This pacemaker quit.
And here's another option. These are pretty cool, these little Derringer guys. But this will hold the same cartridge this does in a pistol cartridge, a 45 long Colt, which can be loaded to have more power than a 44 Magnum in a modern firearm. But it also will take 410 shotgun shells. And some of the shot shells available for these 410s, like Taurus makes 410 called the Judge. It's a 6-shot revolver, and I forget Smith & Wesson's version. Governor. Oh, thank you. The stuff they put in some of these 410 shot shells is absolutely amazing. They'll stack it with little discs and then a layer of balls and some more discs. There's an insane variety of stuff they put in shotgun shells that can be absolutely devastating to things at close range. But your range is extremely limited with these, and reload time is very slow.
There's a question back here.
Oh, yes.
Have you ever fired a 410 shell out of something like that?
No, I haven't. I don't know if the guy that brought it wants to talk about it. I'm sure he has.
It's not that bad. I let my daughter-in-law do it. She did a little dance and did it again.
You really want a good grip when you shoot them.
Yes, sir.
Just a quick question. The semi-autos with easy slide,
The easy.
if they're easy slide,
Smith & Wesson Easy.
Shield easy.
I'm not aware of every model on the planet. There's just too many.
Well, for my wife, she's got a Smith & Wesson that's got easy slide because she has to hold the slides on the other one. They would lock up just as solid as a non-easy slide, right?
I'm not aware of the model you're talking about.
Mine do, yeah. And they're much easier. They're actually designed and made for people who have either problems with their hands, gripping and such. A lot of elderly people that don't have as strong grip as they used to have. They slide easy, and they actually have a backstrap safety on it. So you have to squeeze the handle, just like a 1911 style gun, in order for it to go off. Not a bad gun. They have them at 380 and they have them in 9mm.
Who's that made by?
Smith & Wesson.
Nice, thank you.
Dave,
Yes.
that's what I carry. I carry a 9mm Smith & Wesson M&P Shield, and I've lost 80% of grip in both hands because of rheumatoid arthritis.
Nice.
And what I do is I do the push-pull system,
Mhm.
and I'll tell you what, it works fine with me.
Awesome.
And it's good, and it shoots good. It's a fantastic shooting gun. And as you've said, I've only shot about 1,400 rounds through this one and never had a glitch.
Nice. That's good to hear. When you're carrying a defensive firearm for defensive purposes, you need to buy reliable, not home manufactured ammunition. And it needs to be for defensive purposes, whether it's a hollow point or some of the Hornady. There may be other brands that has a piece of plastic in the hollow point, because some plain hollow tipped ammunition can get plugged up with clothing on its way into the assailant and then will not expand, and it's basically be like a well, if it doesn't expand, you're losing energy into the target. You want as much of that energy to be unloaded inside the target and not just passing through. And he could, like Bill said, you could hit somebody behind them. And then too, with expanding ammunition, you run typically a less chance of over penetrating. Like say if you're in the house and you've got kids 2 rooms down, you still should be concerned, but there's less of a chance of it zipping through multiple walls, because it's going to dump more of that energy as it expands and possibly breaks apart. And the more it breaks apart, the smaller pieces, physics, it's going to lose energy the faster it tears up. I'm going to move into long guns right now. A lot of you have something like this.
Dave,
Yes.
before you move into a long gun, I don't know how many people in here have never handled a firearm before in their life.
Yes, sir.
However, if they have not, I would suggest that what they do is they call Bill and Joan Clements and go out there and pay them the fee that they charge and go out and find the gun, because they've got all kinds of sizes and calibers out there for them to use, and find the one that fits them, that they can handle, that their hands is well equipped for. I mean, once you do that, then you can go on when you talk about handguns.
I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't want to throw them out there.
I will.
As far as fitment with handguns, it's absolutely critical that the handgun fits you. I can shoot this pistol here more accurate than almost any handgun I've ever picked up. It fits me. This one, because the grip's fat, I have to practice with it a lot more to stay proficient. And the pistol has to fit the individual. There's no one size fits all. So I'm going to move on to long guns. This is pretty common in South Dakota. Lever action. I don't even know what this was.
30-30?
This one's 30-30. What I really like, what I've seen lately, and especially those states, not that we're one of them yet, that have rules against this, is you can get these, excuse me, ma'am?
I was just joking, I said that one's more scary, you know, it's more dangerous because it's black.
Nothing on this table should scare anybody. These are just tools. I get your sarcasm, but I hear it though. These are just tools, and like any tool that you're using before you become proficient, you go to somebody that knows how to run that tool and shows you how to operate it correctly. Back to these lever actions, they're really sweet in home defense situations, I think, when you get them in a pistol caliber, because it drastically increases the velocity because of the barrel length. And if you want to or can spend the money on a suppressor. One of these in 38 special with a suppressor on it is extremely quiet, like pellet gun quiet. So if you've got vermin and you're in a semi-suburban area that you need to get rid of, it keeps it on the down low, and they're still fast to operate. I've seen guys run these just as fast as guys with experience running these.
What is that?
This is a lever action. They're a little slow to load because on this particular one you got to stuff each individual cartridge in the loading gate. Some of them, they'll have the loading gate in this tubular magazine where you've got to turn the end of this little cap and you pull it out and then you drop them in one by one. Browning and some of the old Savage 99 model lever actions did have detachable magazines. So they're a little faster to reload. But
So that's a worth one shot and after you go.
no, this is probably, I don't, how many in this? Yeah, okay, it says 5. I got an old long one that belonged to my great-grandfather that holds 7 in them.
Depends on caliber.
Caliber, length of the magazine tube. Now we'll get into the scary stuff. In my opinion, I don't, and I know it's like a Ford Chevy thing, just like I'm a Glock guy. I'm sure there's half a dozen people here that will spit on it and say their signals, it's way superior. But it's Ford Chevy, Ford Chevy, green and red tractors, but the Eugene Stoner AR-15 M16 platform, in my experience, has been the most ergonomically easy to operate platform ever designed. And they actually call it the Lego gun in a lot of places because there's so many different options available to set these up to fit you in the way you want. Some of the things that I would think I deem critical as far as a defensive firearm is the sling, because it's not just a carrying device. When you wrap it in your arm and you know how to run it right, you can pull the weapon into your shoulder, keep it tight, and helps you to acquire a steady sight picture. And this one is set up, I don't have it all wrapped up. You just pull that and you can switch sides with it really easy. If you have to render aid to somebody, climb over something, you have both hands free. You can manipulate whatever it is in front of you. You can bend down and help your buddy. This particular one I've got set up with iron sights in case everything else goes wrong. This sight here, the tubular one, is made by Trigicon. It's a 4-power prism sight that has radioactive material in here, that tritium, that will illuminate the reticle in low light situations, but does never require a battery. The downfall of tritium is that about 8 years it starts to fade and goes away. Newer optics that take batteries out there now, some of these new optics can run for 2 years constant on a battery. But this one is old. And on top of it, I have a red dot sight because with this little red dot sight I don't know if you can see between the two wings there. You can shoot this both eyes open, and it drastically increases your field of view, so you can see a possible threat coming from off to the side better. And it's, once you learn how to use these red dots, it's way faster than the iron sights or this magnified prism sight. There's a company, Primary Arms, now that makes a non-magnified prism sight that takes a battery and has what they call shake-awake technology. As long as the firearm is setting still, the reticle will not be illuminated. So you're saving that battery power, but as soon as you pick it up and move it, that reticle's on. And it is adjustable, the brightness in that one. And with that being a 1-power prism, you can also shoot that one both eyes open. And it has another advantage I like on other people's setups, where you can mount that forward and they make a flip magnifier. So you have the capability of shooting both eyes open with no magnification, but if you need a farther shot, you can flip. They come in 1.5, 3, and I think 4-power flip magnifiers, and now you've got basically a low-powered rifle scope.
You said that can be, you can use it with a revolver?
Yes, and these red dots, it's coming. My eyes are shot. I can see fine until I get to pistol sight distance and inward. Now I have to wear my cheaters to shoot iron sights. If you use these red dots and you're shooting both eyes open, it automatically merges that red dot onto your target. You can shoot both eyes open without the need for my level of probable corrective lenses. Yes, Philip?
So this may be some people in here in the audience this evening's first time ever seeing an AR-15 in person. Now you hear a lot about those in the media and such, and that they're scary, they're deadly. They're no more deadly than any other rifle or gun on that table. Could you maybe talk to some of those people in the audience about why those are possibly picked on as opposed to other rifles and guns on the market today?
Well, part of the reason they're so picked on, it's the most popular rifle in the United States. They make millions. I couldn't even wrap my head around the numbers of these that are produced and are out there every year.
And would you say that's because of the customability of those particular guns as opposed to others? Is that why they're so popular?
I think that's, yeah, the customization ability. You can, like this one here is minimum length without getting a special permit on a rifle in the United States is going to be 16 inches unless you get what's called a SBR paperwork done for it, short barrel rifle. This one is 14.5, but it's 16 because the flash suppressor is pinned and welded, so it makes it considered permanently attached and a part of the barrel. But you can get these as a pistol without this piece on here. And they make what's called a pistol brace, where you're technically supposed to shoot it braced against your forearm, or you see people, it's technical. We're getting really muddy waters with pistol braces and legality. But that brings me into part of two other muddy water now. They have weapons that they're calling now as personal defensive weapons, where they can't really, they call them pistol caliber pistols a lot because they are this, but they may have a 6-inch barrel on it and no buttstock. But I see a lot of benefit to the pistol caliber as far as home defense, because when you take a rifle caliber cartridge and you stuff it into a short length barrel and fire that in low light, the flash is enormous. And I don't know if there's a lot of people or many people here have ever shot indoors and have forgot to put your ear pro on. It's absolutely excruciating. But you'll do it once per range session if you're that forgetful even.
And your ears will ring for days.
But the pistol calibers, and a lot of them have an operating system called direct blowback. And because of that, they're very easy to suppress. So if you have to use it for shooting inside, it's going to be way, way easier on your ears and much less flash than if you had a short barrel rifle in a rifle cartridge.
Is that what they refer to as the assault rifle?
Assault rifle is a term defined by the ATF that they forgot how to apply. Assault rifle would mean that this would have to be a select fire weapon. This is only safe and semi-auto. An assault rifle would have to have 3-round burst or full auto capability.
Newsmedia use the term, they lie all the time. So they try to confuse people.
Not in America.
And we were talking about how big and scary the AR-15 platform is. This is one of the cartridges. This tiny little guy, Philip.
I was going to patiently wait. Go ahead, my friend. I will wait for you to finish your statement.
This tiny little cartridge, most of us, and I shouldn't say most because I think everybody likes to shoot prairie dogs because I do. But a lot of people in Midwest, we use this little tiny thing just for shooting prairie dogs and woodchucks and coyotes. So, to put it in perspective, this is a .308 Winchester, which is pretty standard for a deer rifle cartridge. You're talking twice the powder capacity and 3 times the bullet weight in this particular one to shoot a deer. And this is the one they want to demonize.
Thank you, Dave. The visual was awesome.
Philip.
My question is, going with your comment about the 3-round burst or the fully automatics. What are the laws regarding those types of guns in South Dakota? Fully automatic and 3-round burst type guns.
South Dakota doesn't have anything specific. Those are federal.
Okay.
And same as a suppressor, you're going to have to apply for a $200 tax stamp per item, and then wait however long. Anybody in here bought a suppressor lately? And what's the weight?
You're talking suppressor, but he was talking a select fire weapon, and they have to be made before a certain date because otherwise you can't even transfer them. So you can pay 10 times what it's worth.
You got to be made pre-1983 to be transferable. And something like this transferable, you're about $15,000.
Yeah.
And 15 years ago, they weren't that nice. I got a friend that actually collects those kinds of things, and he has a Browning 50 cal, and that's $100,000. But Even my experience in the military, the only time we ever flipped that switch to fun mode was just horsing around. You'll hear Special Forces, Navy SEAL guys talk that even when they assault a building, they're still in semi-auto. The only time that I think that that's maybe legitimate is if you're moving with a squad of people and you're laying what's called suppressors fire, where you're just trying to keep the enemy from getting up so you can get closer to them.
Why don't you back up a little bit and just bring it down to the basics and explain what semi-auto is compared to a 3-round burst or full auto. And this is where the news media is confusing everybody.
Okay.
And so that people just understand what semi-automatic is. And you can buy a Ruger range rifle that's the same power as that, assault rifle, say it that way.
Yeah. Explain to them what AR means.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
AR stands for Armalite Rifle. Gene Stoner designed this firearm when he worked for Armalite. So,
And that was
anybody that says
back in the
assault-
50s.
Yeah, he was.
Did anything modern?
Well, I think they see that and you see it on TV shows, but they think that's a military weapon. The ones that don't know anything.
Yeah, this is not a military weapon. And to go with, thank you, Brett, for to explain the difference between semi-auto, burst, and full auto. Semi-auto means I have to pull the trigger to make this cycle every time. For every time I pull the trigger, I got one bang. The M16 A2s through the, I don't know what they're on now. Last one I had my hands on was a M4, had a 3-round burst where you pull the trigger and hold it for pause, and you get 3, like duck, 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 about that fast. Full auto, you hold the trigger down, it'll go until the magazine is empty. Yes?
I believe the fascination with the AR style rifle is the clip capacity. That's what everybody, so many people are asking. If you get them up to 40-round clips, if not probably more. But I'll speak for myself personally. If I'm going out and taking a weapon out for hunting, I would take that 30-30 over that 223.
Well,
Because you depend on your one, not 30.
well, if you're doing it ethically, you only need one. You're right there. And in South Dakota, if you're hunting big game with a semi-automatic rifle, you can't have more than 5 rounds.
Right.
Yes.
One of the questions was, why is that gun so popular? It's because of reliability, accuracy, and expense. Reliability because it very, very seldom ever jams. Accuracy because it's good for short and long range. And the expense is because that ammunition that goes in that gun is the most popular ammunition right now going in the United States and has been for 15 years. And that's why it's cheaper to shoot that 223.
Oh, and it's super low recoil.
Yep.
So people that are recoil sensitive have no problems with this. Yes, Philip.
So for somebody who doesn't have a gun or so, they're looking for something for home defense. In you guys' opinion, would it be better to go, say, for like a pistol or a revolver, a rifle, or say a shotgun, if somebody was to enter their home?
We're getting there. What's that?
All 3.
Yeah, all 3.
One for you, one for your wife.
I'll step into shotguns for a minute since you mentioned that. This one's a little longer than the one I keep by my bedside, but inside of 25 yards, a 12 gauge is absolutely devastating with the right ammo. They pack a wallop. And a cool thing about shotguns is you can get ammunition loaded with all kinds of crazy stuff in it, like I mentioned before, like slugs. I would have no problem using this at a bird at 20, 25 yards with the appropriate shot shell, or taking a deer out to 100 yards with the appropriate slug. And some of these new flight controlled federal double out buck, sorry. They instead of inside this shot shell, there's 9 .30 caliber pellets basically. And some of the newer stuff, the pellets aren't just lead, they're copper plated so they don't deform when they compact it all together in this little package. And they fly quite a bit straighter. And the shotgun doesn't open up and clear the room like it does in the movies. Inside of a room, typical living room span, if from one far side to the other, it probably only open up like that in 30 feet. So to think that you have a bad guy and you can just willy-nilly point it anywhere in the room and you're going to get him, that's not true. You still have to aim that. But
Scare the crap out of me.
there's a gentleman who has combat Vietnam experience. He was a police officer and been training for 40 years. I posted a link to a video on, I think Tony will get it out there, on my presentation. He has extensive experience training people with shotguns, and they said that we'll remove pieces, large pieces, at close distance. And a handgun, sometimes a lot of people think it's going to be more handy and maneuverable inside of a building, but that comes, I think, people get disillusioned by watching movies. You see the cops, they run up and they go up against the wall. They call it crowding your cover. You never want to crowd your cover. You want to be back away from, like if you're in a 90-degree corner, you don't want to be right up against it. You want to be back a little bit so you can have some room. And Doug was going to be my Vanna, he said. And the whole, I trust you. Hold it out like you're going to shoot. And you can see how far that sticks away from his body and how much space, volume that position takes up. If I give him this rifle, that's not taking up any more space than that handgun did. And if you're not crowding your cover, you can move just as easily with that.
I'll trust you.
And, thank you, Doug. And I would highly recommend putting a weapon light on your defensive firearm. This one runs off of a tape switch. Half of it's temporary on, and the other half I click it and it stays on. Because if you get high quality tactical light on your firearm, when that hits somebody in the face, it is blinding. It's like a police spotlight in their face inside your home or wherever you happen to be. And now they make them in a small enough package. If you have, where'd it go? Newer firearms, they'll have a rail on the bottom where you can integrate a light into your handgun. It's not in my budget, otherwise it would be here. And some of and they make holsters that accommodate those lights too, and some of those lights also have aiming lasers built into them. And as well as with shotguns, put a sling on it, and then that's a big, I forgot to mention, a big disadvantage with shotguns is they are hungry. This one probably, what, holds 5 in the tube? 6?
It's 8 plus 1, and you can ghost load it to 10.
Oh, wow.
Okay. But, so this one, you can have it fully loaded to 10. My personal one's only 18 and a half, so it holds 7 plus 1. But you can go through ammo in these quite fast, and the ammunition is bulky. Mine, and I see different versions available. I have what's called a side saddle, where I can stack 7 rounds on the side of my shotgun. Mine's permanently attached. They have new ones that attach with sticky, and it's Velcro. And then the holder actually sticks to the Velcro. So you can, when you run those out, you can just rip that off and have a whole nother strip and stick it right to that new Velcro and keep going.
I know, I'm sorry, I keep
No,
asking
you're all right.
questions, brother. So, as you stated beforehand, there is a wide array of companies building guns and styles of guns and this, that, and the other. For those who do not know, don't own a gun, or novices and such, what are some good qualities? Because they can range in price from real cheap to real expensive. What are good qualities to look for when purchasing a gun if you're not too familiar? So that you're getting a good deal and a quality tool.
YouTube is full of guys that do torture tests on firearms. I'm obviously a Glock fan. We had a sick guy over here. There's Beretta people, and they're all high quality firearms. The Smith & Wesson make great ones. You want to stay away from a lot of the really cheap imported stuff. High Point and Lorson. A friend of mine bought a brand new Lorson. He was so excited, and we go to take it out, shoot, and it didn't make it through half a magazine before the slide split in half. That's what you get for $200.
Right. And would you say with some of those cheaper guns that maybe not be of quality, things like jamming, things of that nature, if something that could happen?
Any semi-auto lives and dies by its magazines and the quality of its magazines. And those cheap ones always have junk magazines. There was something else where I was going to go with that.
Finish and machining shortcuts, you get what you pay for.
You do.
What's the regular price of a decent gun?
That's very cool.
It depends
Very
on.
hard class.
I haven't bought one in a long time, so I couldn't tell you what the going price is right now. But I know a lot of places. Cabela's is one of them. And I don't know if they do other brands, but you can come across Glocks from police station buybacks. And you can get them almost half of what they are. And most police stations put more holster wear on the gun than anything else. And I'm not digging on cops, but a lot of our law enforcement at every level does not train.
Was it First Stop Gun in Knockcoin downtown? They have good deals there. I bought my SIG P365 there. It was used but never been fired. Normally it's about a $600 gun. I got it for $465.
You can see on my hour, I got 6 minutes. Can I get some more questions? Tony? Oh, never mind. Jared?
What's a good place to go shooting?
Oh, yeah. Everybody goes to Beretta Road. If you go out there, pick up your junk.
Yeah, there you go.
If you brought it out there, there's no reason you can't take it home with you.
That's right.
Mike, did you have?
No.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Back to the shotguns, not a 12 gauge isn't a good gun for everyone, meaning men and women. What can you suggest that the ladies might be better suited with?
For one, I'll never say men or women because there's a lot of very, very capable women out there. When I was coaching, my best students were women. Because they listened. They didn't say, well, my grandpa said to do this. Well, your grandpa was wrong. I don't care how many. Yes, ma'am.
Any recommendations for ammo, where to get it, knowing the ammo shortages, if people are looking at that?
I see quite a pile of shields. I don't know what they have. I reload, so it's not fair for me to.
Fleet Farm has got a pile of stuff.
Okay.
They're stocked up pretty good. They're like shields.
I
They
think
got a
most
lot of
shelves are
ammo.
full right now. I really, most times if I stop and look, they have it now. There's hardly any shortages that I've seen.
Okay.
What was the name you offered again, my friend?
Fleet Farm.
Fleet
Fleet
Farm.
Farm, okay.
Did y'all see
Pretty good
380
store
there?
by Sam's.
Yes, they have 380.
They
Yeah.
have 380? Okay,
And Shields has 380 as well.
thank you.
If you guys can wait for it, Ammo Seek online is probably some of the lowest prices you'll find.
Yeah.
You just have to wait for it to be shipped to you, but we regularly get, 4 or 5 cents discount per round, sometimes more. from
Yep.
Ammo Seek.
Speak up, that name, Ammo Seek.
Ammo Seek.
I'm going to get to that gentleman's comment about women in 12 gauges before. Again, back to my budget that isn't what I would love it to be. Semi-auto 12 gauges, a lot of the new ones, recoil is very reduced. If a smaller frame person, whether they're a man or a woman, you give them a giant version of this, which just a break barrel shotgun, or a pump action, they definitely put more energy back into the person using it than a modern semi-auto. Some of the semi-autos are just pops now. Beretta 1301, Mossberg 940 is kind of an affordable option right now for.
And they're making them more in tune with less recoil, specifically for women as well.
A lot of it comes out of competition
Yep.
shooters because they want that low recoil so they can get their fast follow-up shot, and then the tactical world gets the benefit of that. Another good one's a Benelli M4, but it's heavy. Yes, sir.
But on the shotgun, you're talking about the pattern.
Yes, sir.
In a pistol that has a 410, is that pattern the same? Is that still smaller?
I don't have the experience with it. The man over there knows.
What's that?
About 10 feet. Yeah, they'll open up fast out of a short barrel of them.
That's what I was thinking, so they would be good in the house then.
And with shotguns, you also have, a lot of them have interchangeable chokes that affect the size of the shot pattern, but you have to be careful that you're using the appropriate pattern for the ammunition, because if you choke them down too hard, say with steel shot, you can undo the whole end of the barrel catastrophically. Yes?
I was just going to say, we were talking about shotguns and different people in your home that can use them. A lot of the tactical shotguns or things that are marketed for home defense are usually 12 gauges. But don't discount your other gauges because there are a lot of youth models and 16 gauges and 20 gauges that actually are pretty good guns at up close ranges. That's better than nothing. So if you want to compare it to a 12 gauge, yeah, 12 gauge is going to get way more power knocked down on your assailant. But a 20 gauge will do it as well. And if you're a young lady or an older person and you can't take that recoil, 20 gauge will go for it. And you can get youth models that'll fit you better. So look around, there's options out there. You don't have to stick with what's being marketed just for that item.
Even if you're I'm not a full-size individual. Youth shotguns are awesome for home defense because the stock is shorter and they're makes it easier to manipulate. And one thing that you can do to help you move around inside the building if you're using a shotgun is a technique they call short stocking, where you'll move like this. You can still shoot it like this, and you can still aim fairly effectively. But when you have the room to open up, you can, like this one's way too long for me, but you can still shoulder it. And you could do that with say some of these pistol caliber carbines, like Ruger makes one that's based, it's a large version of their 1022. It shoots 9mm. But you could put a red dot on that and short stock it through your house if you want. And it's not scary looking like this because it's still covered. You can still make them covered in wood.
I don't know.
It's,
Red dot and a green laser, it's part of the state.
I guess I don't know what you mean by green lasers unless you're talking about an infrared laser.
Yeah.
Or does it cast a green laser onto the
Green laser
target?
beam instead of a red one.
Okay.
Green you can see during the daytime, that's what I.
So that's the same thing.
No, this red dot, the red dot is cast on from the back of this, from a light emitting diode onto the glass, where your laser actually casts that light onto the target.
So you, okay.
Well, they know. Get the green.
And with any of them, you still have to practice proper fundamentals when you're shooting. Just because the dot's there doesn't mean you can yank on the trigger and you're going to hit where you thought it was going to, even with a laser.
I had a gun guy go, no.
I've already gone past my time and my cohorts have not got the...
Give Dave a round of applause.